Welcome back. Eskom is implementing stage 3 rolling blackouts for most of today. It may seem strange, but this is somewhat of a relief for South Africans who've faced weeks of stage 4, 5 and 6, and as Faith had mentioned before the break, it kind of felt like we were facing stage 8 as well. So now the National Planning Commission wants to declare an energy emergency.
Yes, that's right. So it says that it will make it possible to override long drawn-out processes to procure renewable energy. So let's speak to Mark Swilling now from the Commission. Mark, thank you so much for your time this morning. A very good morning to you. Talk to us a little bit about the thinking behind an energy emergency, because I tell you one thing, it is an emergency to not be without consistent power supply in the country when you're still paying for electricity at the exorbitant tariffs that we're paying.
Yes, well, all that we can say with absolute certainty in South Africa, which is rare, is that nobody wants load shedding to continue. At the same time, we have to recognize that it's been going on since 2008. There are 15-year-olds running around in South Africa who have never experienced a South Africa without load shedding. Sure. So we have to accept we now have an energy emergency, and what this will enable is the president to have the necessary powers to intervene, to unblock, so that we can have a very rapid rollout of additional capacity, generation capacity, because that's really the issue here.
15 years, Mark, 15 years, and you're saying there are 15-year-olds that, I mean, I would imagine they're not running around anymore because they are almost somewhere close to being adults. They don't know what it's like to live in a South Africa that has never had load shedding. Can we even ever find a solution? If we have not been able to do so in 15 years, can South Africa actually be load shedding free?
South Africa definitely can be load shedding free. And it can happen in 24 months. We just have to make the decisions. You can build solar and wind energy generation capacity of the order of 10,000 megawatts plus 5,000 megawatts of storage within that time period if the necessary decisions are made to clear the blockages and to make it possible to roll out this level of generation capacity. And the large bulk of the funding for that will not come from the state. So it's not going to add additional fiscal burden. And as a National Planning Commission, for us, that is very important. We are absolutely convinced that the National Development Plan's goals for 2030 will never be reached if we continue to have load shedding for longer than 24 months.
Absolutely. You know, Mark, if we have to look at the value chain of it, I mean, you're saying that we can actually amass generation capacity and renewable energy is a way in which we can do so. I keep wondering, could it be that the reason why we see such a slow progression to procurement is because of the beneficiation process of those that are supplying coal and those that are involved in the supply of coal, and what we would also term as these evergreen contracts that were signed in many instances pre-democracy times with the very same power utility that we're seeing right now. Obviously further compounded by the issue of corruption, the issue of mismanagement of funds, the issue of stealing from citizens as well. Could that be an issue that actually we don't have a will to really procure renewable energy because of these deals that were signed, because of these agreements? And I have to ask the question, who's part of the signing of the agreements and whose name is there as a benefactor?
Well, the fact of the matter is we have an integrated resource plan, which is South Africa's national energy policy. And that policy states that the very old power stations like Hendrina, Grootvlei, Camden, Komati, need to be closed. And we've actually missed the deadlines for closing some of those old coal-fired power stations. But it's not possible to close those old coal-fired power stations until you've got new generation capacity to make up for what you are losing. So the people who do have vested interests in coal, of course, they run businesses, they've sunk capital and so on and so forth. They're not going to be too happy with the idea that they're no longer going to be able to transport coal or supply coal to coal-fired power stations. They're not going to be happy, but they've known about this policy since 2019. They know that it's coming. They know that the interests of the nation are being compromised by keeping these old coal-fired power stations that fall over every now and again and put us in darkness. And so it's time that they reconfigure their businesses. That's what people do when change comes along. You rethink your businesses and you figure out your place. You can't hold a gun to the head of the nation and say, we're not going to allow you to do this.
Mark, you've given the overarching solution to load shedding and how we can do away with something we've been dealing with for a decade and a half. But if perhaps you can just let us into the thinking of the National Planning Commission, what exactly is it that you're suggesting those that are the powers that be do to ensure that we get rid of load shedding? What exactly are you, because you're saying that you can make it possible to override long drawn out processes. How so?
Well, a statement was issued by the presidency which announced to the nation that the president is taking the lead in addressing the energy crisis. And the statement issued by the National Planning Commission, which is in the presidency, said we welcome that. We also welcome the role that that Operation Vulindlela plays in being an action team that implements things. So that's the context. There's capacity to get things done. There is political will to lead. What now is needed is additional powers for the president that in order to intervene and override some of the rules. Our rules are great for a normal situation, but we're not in a normal situation. It's almost like a war condition. Let's do what is necessary to achieve the goal. Let's the nation unite behind that goal and say, in 24 months, we are going to end load shedding. That's, you know, and to do that, the president is going to have to intervene. For example, to lift the ceiling on the 100 megawatt registration ceiling. There will need to be interventions to make sure that the procurement of new renewable energy doesn't have to go through a long, laborious set of decision-making processes. We will have to intervene to enable local authorities to buy energy from independent power producers. All of these add up together so that we can then have the kind of framework that's going to result in this build program.
Yeah. Mark, why do you think that the Department of Minerals and Energy has been so slow in being able to just make decisions and enact some of those processes that would allow for the very same procurement that we're speaking about this morning?
Well, I think you should ask the minister that question. I think as a National Planning Commission, we are focused on bringing people together and building the necessary cohesion and strategic focus. The Presidential Climate Commission, which is also within the presidency, has been doing an absolutely fantastic job. And we're working together to bring all the different stakeholders together. And the minister has participated in all of those meetings. Exactly why his department and the procedures are slow, I think it's got a lot to do with the complexity of the system that has been designed. South Africa is well known internationally as having one of the most complicated and bureaucratic procedures for procuring renewable energy. To fast track that, it's not fit for purpose for an emergency fast track large scale rollout. It's fine if we didn't have an emergency, but we have an emergency and we need emergency actions and procedures.
The problem can be fixed in 24 months. That's a very bold statement. That says to South Africans that we've been dealing with this for 15 years, but it can be fixed in 2 years. What makes you so confident as the National Planning Commission, and what exactly has to be done to ensure that, give a 2-year deadline, everything happens as it should? What needs to happen?
You know, we South Africans are really, really good at talking ourselves down into a depression. And continuously repeating pessimism is self-reinforcing. So as a National Planning Commission, we hold out a vision for 2030. And we're saying, as a commission, backed by expertise, there's quite a few of us on the National Planning Commission who really do understand the energy system. We sit on research institutes that have studied this stuff for years. And what we are saying is we can do it. Technically and financially, it's possible to do. We just have to make the right decisions. And the whole nation, all of business, and the international community will unite behind us. Nobody likes to see us going down the tubes. Nobody has an interest in keeping load shedding going. So let's do it.
Yeah. I definitely hear you here, Mark, when it comes to just being able to have the consistency of power supply. And what you said in the beginning statement, that a child who's 15 years old or a teenager who's 15 years old does not know what it's like to live in a country where energy supply is very consistent. On the other side of it, you have to look at even the very same shenanigans that are going on in Eskom that is perhaps leading us to the very same notion. I remember a time earlier this year or late last year when there was a whole conversation regarding bringing in engineers from other countries to come and sort out the mess when it comes to Eskom and provide other sort of like insight. Then there was an issue around bringing in retired engineers to come and sort out the very same mess. It's like every single solution that gets found, it's not solving anything. I don't know whether or not is Eskom beyond repair, in your opinion?
No, I don't think Eskom as an institution is beyond repair. What is beyond repair is the old skorokoros, the old power stations that are simply need to be closed. You can't keep on repairing them, increasing your cost of repairs and maintenance and expecting them not to fall over every now and again. They need to be closed, and that is official policy. That is official government policy. Go and read the Integrated Resource Plan. Close these things. Eskom, however, as an institution, has gone through a terrible, terrible time. Just read the Zondo Commission. The National Planning Commission has started a discussion about the Zondo Commission, or wants to start a discussion about the implications of the Zondo Commission reports for the economy, for development. And the Zondo Commission makes it very, very clear that Eskom was pretty much the golden goose that was looted during the state capture years. And so, unsurprisingly, it's an incredibly harmed and debilitated institution, but it is not beyond repair. It has got some great engineers. It's got some very good leadership. It makes absolutely no sense for the CEO to resign, or to be asked to resign, because that'll take another year to get a new one, another year for a CEO to learn the business, and he'll come to exactly the same conclusions as the current one. So let's just make it work.
Yeah.
Did Andries Tshabalala just walk into a problem? Did he walk into something he had absolutely no ability to solve? Did he just take up a job where he probably himself knew that there is nothing he can do to fix the problem that is Eskom? Or did he actually genuinely believe that he had the solutions? I mean, are we pointing the finger at the wrong man?
Well, if you're pointing the finger at the Rata to blame him for the current situation, then yes, you're pointing to the wrong man. He came into the job knowing this is the most difficult job in South Africa and probably one of the most difficult jobs in the world in the energy sector. But he never realized it was this bad. He underestimated the severity of the situation, and that's because under previous CEOs, there was an incentive not to tell the truth because you could lose your job. And that's not the way to run a company. So as the truth started to emerge, it became clearer and clearer to him that things are much worse. And he's made that publicly clear. There's lots of research on that. There's publications on that. Every technical engineer who knows anything about the energy sector knows that these old coal-fired power stations simply cannot get fixed to bring the energy availability factor up to where it should be. Close them down, the average EAF then goes up, and we have new generation capacity that is proven technology. It is cheaper than coal that can solve the problem.
Yeah. You know, Mark, in terms of just being able to have these sentiments shared with the presidency and the president himself on just the proposal of declaring an actual energy emergency, how far are we up the chain in being able to see that be? I won't lie to you. As the conversation persists this morning, I'm kind of thinking, this is a very good idea. Let's do it yesterday. Just because of what we've been experiencing as a country where load shedding is concerned. But how far are we in being able to have those discussions and perhaps even some kind of concrete, a response from the presidency?
Well, the National Planning Commission is an independent advisory body made up of commissioners who come from a range of different disciplines and backgrounds. But we are united around the idea that we have an energy emergency and the requisite action is needed. We now need to go into the necessary engagements with the presidency. We are not executing the orders of political leadership. We're independent. And we're allowed to come to our own conclusions and make the recommendations. And that's the process we are currently in. That's what the National Planning Commission is there to do. We issued the statement a few days ago, and we will enter into the necessary engagements to make our case. So that's where we are. And the media has been very, very interested in the statement and has educated the public about the possibility that we actually could end load shedding in 24 months. And that is obviously also going to be noticed by the political leadership, who will want to engage and say, all right, let's figure this out. Let's bring the necessary expertise together. Bring Operation Vulindlela, the PCC, the NPC together, all the different bodies who are affected, and Eskom, and say, let's solve this problem.
All right. So, Mark, you've of course said that this problem has and still is beyond Andries Tshabalala, but South Africans are asking for heads to roll. South Africans are asking for somebody to take accountability and for somebody to essentially suffer the fate of what has been happening to them. Leadership has, according to some South Africans, been void. It's not been there. So then is a change of leadership, be it at Eskom or even in government, necessary? Can that go some way to solving this problem?
Listen, you accepted my statement that we've had load shedding since 2008. The causes of that load shedding are very complex. We have a very complex energy system, and it's got worse and more serious. We have had 13 chief executives of Eskom in 14 years. So every time there's a problem, we lop off a head and we expect the new head to solve the problem. It never works, because this is a complex. It's not like somebody made a few mistakes and now they must take accountability and then it'll be fine. This is a deep set of problems in a very, very complex system, and no one person is going to solve the problem. A whole bunch of heads have to come together to address it in the spirit that this is an emergency.
Yeah.
And we have to act accordingly. It's like being invaded by a foreign power. Let's all get together and say, save our nation. And you're not going to do that by lopping off the head of the general.
Well, Professor Mark, more than anything else, it's not to actually take off the head of the general, but maybe let's look at how is it that in 24 months maybe we could be singing a different tune. I do hope that these conversations actually take place and they do so in a very productive manner, an effective manner, so that South Africans, especially that 15-year-old, I think I go back to that point, the 15-year-old who's never known South Africa to have consistent energy supply, will see a different form of reality, because I think we all need that at that moment in time. We'll leave it right there for this morning, but thank you so much for your time. Professor Mark Swilling there from Stellenbosch University and a member of the National Planning Commission.